One of the things that's unique about Revology cars is that we build all of our cars on an assembly line, which allows us to be very efficient in the process. It allows us to control quality. The assembly line is very unforgiving. It requires everything to be precisely coordinated. The parts, the workflow, what operations are done, what sequence that they're done, all of the different configurations have to be considered in the planning process. So there's a lot of upfront work that has to be done before the car is actually released to production.
We will actually run different types of cars, what makes it challenging. We will run the Shelbys, the GTs, convertibles, and now the Boss as well. The advantage is that we can use the same people in the same facility. The cars are basically the same, but they do have some differences. For the Boss, there's a lot of carryover, but there are a lot of differences on them as well. So that makes it a little bit unique. Because there's so many new elements, there are so many different things that we have to make sure that we're prepared for production. For the pre-production build, we made a decision to run a car pre-production, run it through the body and white area into a rolling chassis, just to make sure that we got all the issues resolved before we actually ran the production. That was a good thing. With that, then we were able to figure out what those issues are before we just started running it, and we actually have a plan to attack everything that came up during that production build.
As new vehicle launch manager, my position was to be the bridge between engineering, between quality and production. We designed the car in CAD to try and get a good head start before assembling it, so we had all the parts in the correct order. All the parts were here ready to be installed and keep the assembly process as smooth as possible. We preemptively created parts offline prior to starting the assembly of the vehicle. It helped us to assemble the car quickly versus the alternate, which would be to design parts on the floor during the build of the car, which would take a lot more time. Each new part required validation. We documented the entire process. This helped us to prepare the car for production when it hit the assembly line. We chose not to paint the pre-production car. This was in order to provide us more time to validate and test the vehicle prior to disassembly and returning it into the assembly line. Once all the validation process was finished on the pre-production car, we disassembled it, and in doing so, it provided us the opportunity to capture all of the processes again, crossing our T's, dotting our I's, making sure that the process was finalized and ready to go for production.
Building the pre-production car, there's a lot of things that we learned. We did the best we could to make sure that we thought of everything. We were so far ahead because we did run a pre-production car, so that made things run much smoother. All the technicians had to be trained on the new procedure. There's similar things that are on the Boss that they're previous, so the learning curve wasn't as hard, but there was things that they had to learn. When you have a team of people that are excited to work on a product, that makes it even better, right? Because now they're helping you figure out what those issues are. They have an interest in it, right? We had a lot of work to do, a lot of new systems that we had to learn, some things that we hadn't done previously. It took a lot of resources, engineer support, development, and MEQs, and quality people, and production people all having to work together to get that done.
In the luxury manufacturing environment, for the Boss, attention to detail is very important. We have 26 working stations, and what is done in one station is going to affect the next station. The technicians are expected to follow the assembly process manual to make sure they are following all the steps defined in a perfect way so the next station won't be affected by any defect. We have to consider that we have different variations, models, options, and each of them must be validated. The APM, which is the assembly process manual, it's very important to be documented precisely, and some specific operations of the APM also have the work instructions. We need to know that when we start production, we are ready.
The Boss is different. It's a complete overhaul. We look at our 68 and our 67s, and so much of it is, off-the-shelf parts that we have to modify to now have a model that so much of it has been designed by, really experienced OEM CAD engineers, where they've studied this, they've looked at it, how do we do it the best way? So a lot of what we do here at Revology is because we are working with we have such a higher standard for what we think is acceptable for a production car. We do take the time to sub-assemble things offline, and in the IP cluster was no exception of we take it offline, we make sure that it's perfect in every way that we can following our repeatable, our manufactured process that Adrian and I developed. I work with PD to understand their product, and then I train production. And it was the first time we used Revology like woven leather. And it was a bit of a challenge to work with. You know, our techs had never worked with that kind of material before. Getting to work with Adrian, who has a lot of interior upholstery expertise, and working with our techs that are so talented to collaborate, get things documented, make the process repeatable was something that was a big challenge. It took a lot of coordination. It took a lot of iterations.
The main reason we have such a unique and such a fantastic vehicle is the teamwork. 3 departments working together, and look at the car, it's fantastic.
We are sure that we're delivering a very high quality product worthy of comparing with the luxury brand that we compete in.
Through my career, this has probably been one of the best executed, more successful projects that I've ever been part of. And I think a lot of it is just because of the people were so interested in the product, the technicians and the team, and everybody really wanted to see what the final product was going to be. Trying to get people to do a task just because you ask them to do it, you know, as part of their job. But when they're excited about that, they're more than willing to help, you know, and they'll go above and beyond. If you needed somebody to work a little extra to help out with the project, they're like, hey, I got it, I'm on it. And so we've seen a lot of that. It's some very dedicated people that really made this come to.
Designing the car in CAD, building a prototype or prototypes, and then eventually rolling them into production is the right sequence of events. It really improves the probability of a successful outcome when you go into production. But despite all of your best planning efforts, it's a very complex product. An automobile has thousands of parts, and so there's a lot of variables there to consider, and things don't always go as planned. And that's the case at OEMs as well as in a small volume specialty manufacturer like Revology. The key is really having excellent documentation. And if anything is left to chance, that means there's going to be variability. And variability means inconsistent outcome. What we've always attempted to do at Revology is emulate the processes, tools, techniques of the OEMs. Because these are companies that invest billions of dollars in their product development, and their manufacturing, quality operations to ensure consistency, repeatability, and have a product that people can drive and use and enjoy for many, many years without having problems. We are quite different from typical companies in the specialty segment. The way that we approach manufacturing is one good example of that.